I'm about to expose one of the secret tools of content creators. Imagine everyone having a personal virtual AI assistant. A virtual assistant that can answer your questions ranging from science, health, history, technology, definitions, you name it. And it's even easier than Googling the answer to your questions because you'll get a structured answer in a matter of seconds. And it can do so much more. It can summarize text, translate text, it can write poetry, stories, blog posts. It supports multiple languages, with English and Spanish being the primary ones, then French, German, Italian, Portuguese, some Chinese, some Japanese. For the programmers among us, it can generate code, Python, JavaScript, Angular, Java, C++, SQL, JSON, HTML, CSS. I've used it for C#. After hearing all of this, you're probably thinking about ChatGPT. The technology I'll be covering is not ChatGPT, but it does share similarities. Before I dive in deeper, I want to know your thoughts about these powerful, knowledgeable AI tools like ChatGPT. Are they the end, or rather the beginning of short-form content creation? Because if everyone has their virtual AI assistant, they may become less likely to open up Google, browse things, or YouTube to learn things, or even LinkedIn, because a lot of the content on LinkedIn now could have just been copied from one of those tools. Let me know your thoughts on these powerful AI tools, what they may be the end of, the beginning of, what tasks, what jobs. And if you want to be a part of the beginning of the end, keep watching, because I'll show you how to incredibly easily set up your own virtual AI assistant. My final thoughts on using the model for a while: it absolutely blew my mind how simple it is to get access to that knowledge, those structured answers. So it can generate an answer that looks really good, but maybe with some more domain knowledge you see like, that's not the proper way to do it, but then you can prompt it even more specific to. Also keep in mind that it's still a generative model, which means it's capable of writing fiction, it's capable of storytelling, of all kinds of things, and it's also not 100% accurate all the time on spelling and things like that. I made it count to 100 in a different language, and I noticed it did make some mistakes. And then another time I did notice it made some mistakes in spelling as well, due to me posing questions in a different language than its primarily supported languages. So just keep that in mind. Other than that, and it seems to be fairly objective. We'll be using Facebook's, or Meta's, large language model called LLaMA or oLLaMA, or whatever the pronunciation is. All you need to do is download it and run it. You can either do that directly onto your computer or have it in a Docker container. I'll be showing you the containerized Docker way, because in that way we may decrease the odds of the AI taking over. So let's pull out Docker Desktop and search for oLLaMA, double L, and click that first one. Let's see. And then the commands are just down below. So you can have the image that only uses the CPU for those that don't have an NVIDIA GPU. And I'm also just going to go with the CPU version regardless. We'll just run that in our terminal. It's going to be docker run. I'm going to remove the volume. Oh. So once that's done downloading, it should be up and running in your Docker container, and by default it's going to be running on the 11,434. So what we can do now is go in the container and use the terminal. You can type in here or just open external terminal, and we're going to, and here we're able to run the oLLaMA command, and let's say list. to list our oLLaMA installations. Let's see, oLLaMA run LLaMA 3. Don't be fooled, it's not your usual terminal. And then it's gonna pull in that. If I understand correctly, this model, this AI model, and the project around it is originally built in C++, and it also has an API around it, and exposes a few endpoints, so you can interact with that model through the command line interface or through the HTTP API, which will also be accessible on that 11,434 port at localhost. So you're running this oLLaMA, this powerful, useful oLLaMA virtual AI assistant locally on your local computer using your local resources. And it does use quite some resources once you're prompting. So it's not going to be really cheap to host it on the cloud or in a virtual machine elsewhere. So if you don't want to be paying a lot to host it somewhere else, it may be an idea to just have it run it locally and then expose it using ngrok or some kind of tunnel or proxy if you really want to access it in your production application to assist you in writing content, blog posts, maybe just correcting spelling, and all various tasks it can do. So it came up, and now you can prompt it using this window, and I'm gonna ask it, how do you compare to ChatGPT, for example? GPT, GTP or GPT? I always do it wrong. And then you see it's answering, and it's going to in a structured manner. It also outputs Markdown, or it can output Markdown, which is really useful for your content writing and so on. And you see the CPU usage is racing, memory half. So congratulations, you now have your own virtual AI assistant. I've been asking it a lot of questions already. I took screenshots because I don't want to bore you with. It does take some time to get the entire answer, but it's always in a well-structured manner. But it really blew my mind. It generated code snippets. It stays on topic. I asked to generate a code snippet in C#, and then afterwards a totally different thing to make it generate graphical content. But it generated C# code to generate graphical content. To exit that, you can just type exit, and then it's going to go back to the broad range of topics and tasks. And if you then hit exit again, it's just gonna completely shut down. So I asked it multiple questions already. I'm not going to replay all of them, I just took screenshots. I asked them, what programming languages do you support? Are you a database? I really wanted to know, how does it access all of that information? Because it can really act like a Wikipedia or something. And then I asked something really useful for me, for my brand website. What features does a brand website need? Clear navigation, responsive to design, compelling content, contact information, search functionality, call to actions, sign up for the newsletter, social media integration, mobile optimization, blog or news section, testimonials, customer reviews, success stories, analytics, e-commerce functionality, and most of that happens to be included in my version 2 .NET 8 brand website, email campaigns, commerce. So the web shop, the email campaigns, newsletter sign up, sponsorships, memberships, end-to-end authorization, authentication. Get your own copy at kisscode.com/products or at patreon/kissstupidshop. This product contains all of the kisscode.com features, and I want to focus on one feature in specific is on the blog posts you can have. So these blog posts are written in Markdown, but it also supports code snippets in Markdown. So if I ask this virtual AI assistant to generate code snippet, it's gonna do so in a Markdown format with the annotated with the C#, which is perfect for my own technical blog. So it would be a really cool idea to set that virtual agent up, expose the URL, and then interact with it while writing my blog posts. So I would be creating some kind of client or interface to interact with this oLLaMA running on my local host. So speaking about clients, there are multiple ways to run C#.NET projects and interact with this oLLaMA model. One of those ways is oLLaMA Sharp, is a C#.NET package which allows you to easily interact with the API that's wrapped around it. I'll show you more about this API right away. I'm just gonna quickly go over these. So this is basically a client. So just more like, you can see it as an HTTP client, which just contains all of the possible HTTP calls you would be doing to the oLLaMA backend. So it has create model, delete model, list local models, list running models. So the list command we already did in the CLI before, push model, blah, blah, blah. We're mostly interested in send chat. So you can do streaming HTTP requests to that model that it's going to answer in chunks. So in a stream. So you're going to get a continuous flow of answers. But you can also just set that streaming feature to false, and then you'll just get the answer after a few seconds, but all at once, just like a simple request response. So that's a client you can easily just get up and running instead of writing your own. And then you have something else. There's the C# stack, which is also has been working on oLLaMA Sharp, making it possible to run the whole thing, so both the backend and the client and so on, like in a Blazor demo, in a ASP.NET environment, in a worker environment, and by simply installing the package, setting the backend to CPU or GPU, so the CUDA ones, and then it can even support more with the semantic kernel. And then you can do all of it that we just did in the terminal or in the Docker image, so to say. You can just do that from your application. This is more than just the client, of course. But with that client, of course, you always will have to have your own llama instance running locally, because it's going to do HTTP calls to that port. That brings me to the next thing. You can now access localhost to that port 11.4.34, and I think you can set API/tags. And now, yeah, we're just gonna run this to see that we're running. You can also get all kinds of information about the model that you downloaded, so the llama 3. And you can even, the most useful thing, you can do the post requests to this endpoint, so to the API, to post a search query or a prompt or whatever you want to call it, and get the response either streamed or directly. So I'm opening Postman and the API documentation to see how we'll actually get something out of it. You can use it via curl using your terminal command line interface. So I'm just going to do a post request, HTTP request to API/generate. I'm gonna add some JSON body using targeting the llama 3 model. The prompt could be whatever, of course. Stream, you can set that to true or false. I'm gonna leave it at false. Another question I asked it was, are you licensed? Because I was curious to know if I was gonna get hit by some kind of restrictions, or well, there definitely are commercial restrictions, I think. But I just want to know that if it's whether it was gonna stop working or something. But that's not the case. There are of course restrictions, I think, but well, there's a license that you shouldn't violate. It's not like it's going to physically prevent you. I think you don't know what AI can do these days, right? So response is empty. That's not good. So it didn't like that format JSON, but so I removed that. Yet it does respond in JSON, so that's good. And it says response, I'm not licensed professional in the classical sense. I'm an AI, so I don't have a physical presence or operate blah 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 blah. That works. And lastly, you can even add it into your Visual Studio Code. I haven't tested this one, but I just saw it. Let's see if we go to the packages. LLaMA Coder, that was the one I was looking for. It only has 2 reviews, so yeah, use at your own. You basically need that local oLLaMA instance running, so in Docker or on your computer. And then you just need to set the oLLaMA host to 0000 instead of the 127.0.0.1. And then you would be able to prompt the oLLaMA in Visual Studio Code, and it's gonna act like a GitHub CoPilot, but a free one. So that's another client interface among many and many different languages and tools. Let's end the video by generating a code snippet. Let's see. Features of 6 labors image sharp C# NuGet package. It can take some time now and then. It can even get stuck or crash. In that case, I just rerun the Docker container, something like that, restart it. So it's generating responses, and it should give me some coding snippets examples in C# in Markdown, written in Markdown. I don't want to make this video too long by waiting for all of the answers. Even telling me about async support, which is good because that was something I was missing from the generated code snippets. So if I were to ask, give me code snippets, it's going to know that I'm referring to the previous prompt. So it's going to continue on that 6 labors image sharp library, and it's going to generate my code with that library. So that's amazing, but it's not using the async functionality. So that's what I meant with I may need to prompt more specific and ask, give me the asynchronous features or something like that. And that's what you're gonna see on LinkedIn as well. You're gonna see answers directly copied from tools like ChatGPT or LLaMA Sharp, and they may not even try to improve. So that's not something I aim to do. I'm going to use that maybe as a start to get out of that writing block, or to give inspiration or an outline or structure, whatever, ideas, all kinds of things it can generate for me. But then I'm going to try to paste in my real world examples from my own projects, from my own experience and the things I struggled with or found out, and so on. So it's quite amazing. It is, however, missing some styling and stuff. It's a bit not the best UI, but you see it's generating these code snippets with the markdown tags and tagged as C#. So if I were to copy this and put it in a blog post, let's just do it here for now. Preview on, just gonna set that. Let's see. Then combined with my kiscode.com project, it's going to paste that nicely as a markdown code snippet. So definitely check out that kiscode.com version 2 and even version 1 of the brand website. So it will be pretty cool to integrate into either my kiscode.com website or maybe in Visual Studio Code or whatever writing tool you're using. And I showed you multiple ways to integrate with that oLLaMA setup. So through the CLI, the command line interface, or through the API directly or via a client written by someone else. Now you should have your own virtual AI assistant at your fingertips that can provide you tons of useful tips, tricks, learnings, education. Hit that like and subscribe to see more mind-blowing, innovative tech and free. See you in the next one.